I just want to preface this video by saying I made this video back in 2020 for one of my other channels, and since this is a dedicated gaming channel, I thought a remastered version of this video belonged here. I feel like everything I bring up in this video still correlates to today, so without further ado, let's get into this video. MVP Baseball 2003 was released on March 11th, 2003. The game was released for the PlayStation 2, original Xbox, and Microsoft Windows. MVP 2003 was the first of the MVP franchise after EA Sports decided to end the triple play series and go in another direction. MVP 03's cover was graced with the presence of not just one star, but two. Those stars being Randy Johnson and Miguel Tejada. MVP 2003 even received an 82% from Metacritic, for whatever that is worth. First off, I did not play MVP 03 very much back in the day. It was just before my time and I only played it a handful of times over the years, so I was really interested to see the difference between this game and MVP 04 and MVP 05. My first hot take of this video is this game plays a lot like the other MVP games that followed this one, but there are some different features that just seem odd to me in this game, and they are just in this one installment of the MVP franchise. For example, you have to use X to slide feet first, and X and the left analog stick to slide head first. It honestly feels very clunky compared to the just sliding with the right analog stick compared to the other MVP games. I was actually getting so frustrated, and I did not understand why my players would not slide when I first started playing this game, but I had to look in the manual and I understood why. Yeah, I had to look in the manual. You remember those? This MVP also feels very stripped down compared to the games that followed. There is a minimal customization throughout the entire game. For example, in the play now section, you cannot even edit the lineups or pitchers. You have to go to a whole other screen and edit the lineups and pitching staffs and save it just how the lineup that you want. It is honestly a pain in the butt, but it was 2003, so I'm not faulting it too much. There's also no franchise fantasy draft to be found. I was unsure if a draft was in this game, and what do you know? There isn't one. It's kind of disappointing that they did not have a draftable mode in this game, but again, I get it. MVP was finding its footing and it was 2003. There is not even much to do in this game when it comes to the overall game modes MVP 03 offers. There is only the home run derby, which is still just god awful and I will forever dislike in the MVP series, a season mode, a tournament mode, and finally a franchise mode. There is not much to be said here. Having the batting practice mode in later games along with having a fantasy draft were huge additions to the MVP franchise. With that said, let us dig into the meat and potatoes of this game and talk about the gameplay. The hitting in this game is still pretty solid. It feels a lot like MVP 04 and MVP 05, just without the hitter's eye, which makes hitting in these games so much easier. It is easy to forget how quickly the ball gets on you in this game compared to the current MLB The Show. It is always a learning curve to dive back into MVP and try to be successful at hitting, but after a while you start to get the hang of it, and the hitting is still enjoyable in 2020. Again, I just wish there was a hitter's eye feature in this game. Other than that, there's not much to add on about the hitting. It is still pretty much the status quo of all the MVP games. It's just without the hitter's eye, and it's still solid in 2020, and I'm sure it was a complete godsend back in 2003. Now, the fielding in this game is good enough, but it is far from perfect. It is definitely the clunkiest fielding game out of all of the MVP series. Catching balls in the outfield feels like a minor panic attack every single time because the player doesn't put their glove up to catch the ball until the very last second. It's honestly crazy. It feels like the player is going to miss the ball every single time, but they somehow don't, so it is what it is. The infield is a bit better. There is some weirdness to it too, but it plays a lot smoother. The diving as an infielder is a bit odd also, but you do make some awesome plays though. Overall, the fielding has held up well enough to where it is playable in 2020, but it is definitely the most dated and worst version of fielding the MVP games have to offer. The pitching in this game feels just like MVP 04. I don't think the pitching changed much between games, but it does feel just a little bit different compared to MVP 05. The pitching is probably the most polished part of this game, and it shows. Fun fact, apparently this game was the first baseball game to have the pitching meter. I'm not sure if this is accurate, but that is what Wikipedia said, so take it with a grain of salt. The best part of the pitching in MVP 03 and all the MVP games is how easy it is to spot up on a pitch. If you want a pitch in the exact spot, more than likely it will be there, which is night and day compared to MLB The Show. Furthermore, with the pitching in this game, no, it is not the best when looking at it in 2020, but it is the best feeling and most polished feature in this game, and it still remains enjoyable to this day. On to the miscellaneous portion of this video. Kruk and Kuip appear in this game, and it is quite clunky and wooden, but it is honestly a standout feature in this game. There are some great one-liners that I heard while playing.
Ken Griffey Jr. is a solid baseball player. It looked like he was swinging a sword. Barry Bonds is one pretty good hitter, Kuip.
Even though they say stuff like Griffey and Bonds are just alright and they're not as great as they actually were and are, however you want to phrase that, which honestly, it made me chuckle. Speaking of Bonds, this is the last video game to feature him in it. It was honestly weird playing a real officially licensed Barry Bonds in a game, but it was pretty cool to do, I'm not gonna lie. The music in this game is also very 2003, and I say that in the most loving way possible. It was cool seeing OK Go and Sum 41 pop up in this video game. Even the player models in this game don't look horrible for being 17 years old. Yes, some stuff looks pixely and grainy, but there's also some parts that look pretty sharp, especially for 2003. I'd even argue that the Ichiro player model looks better in this game compared to a later version of MLB The Show. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but so be it. Finally, we have to take a look at the stadiums in this game. Technically, there are no classic stadiums in this game and just have the current stadiums for each team. With that said, there are a lot of old ballparks in this game when you're looking at it through a 2020 lens. It was so cool to be able to play at parks like Olympic Stadium, Veterans Stadium, and Jack Murphy Field. It was also interesting to see how most of the ballparks that are still around in 2020 and were in this game have had a name change. It was honestly odd seeing some of the ballpark names in this game. You forget how many of them have changed over the past almost 20 years. Oh, before I forget, the Rogers Center is still called the Sky Dome in this game, which was pretty neat to see. To wrap this whole thing up, MVP 03 is still a solid game to go back to and play in 2020. Even without having heavy nostalgia for this particular MVP game, I did not mind playing it and started to even enjoy it once I started to learn the game a bit better. I definitely could see people really enjoying this game if you played this game a lot back in the day and have some nostalgic feeling towards it. For a game that is nearly 17 years old at the making of this video, it is still an enjoyable experience to go back and spend some time on. If this game had some features that MVP 04 and 05 had, this game would be right there with them as one of the best baseball games around to this day. What are your thoughts on MVP 03? Did you play this game a lot back in the day? Let me know your thoughts on MVP down in the comment section below, and while you're down there, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, that would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for sticking around and watching this video about MVP 2003. Until next time guys, everyone have a great day. Thanks for watching.